DJ Pro not recognizing your DJ controller? Well, I'm DJ Spiegel Spin, and I'm gonna show you why. Alright, so I love Djay Pro and DJing with the iPad, and I also love all types of controllers, even the old ones, the weird ones, and the ones that are outdated, and I'll just try to plug any controller into Djay Pro. But the thing is, some work and some don't work. So you can plug in non-natively supported controllers into Djay Pro, but some of them you can't because these MIDI devices have to be class compliant on iOS devices. So unlike with laptops and PCs where you could download additional drivers so that these MIDI controllers would work, on iOS there is no way at the moment to download additional drivers. So if the controller or device that you're trying to plug into Djay Pro is not class compliant with Apple devices, then there is no chance of using that controller with Djay Pro. Although this is really bad news that if you find out your controller is not class compliant, there's literally nothing you could do to make it work with iOS. But most devices and controllers are supported and class compliant. So there could be another issue why your controller is not working. It could be something wrong with your wire. It could be something wrong with the adapters that you're using because now that they keep changing the ports and they made it USB-C, there's different types of adapters. So some of them will not support the MIDI device. But how do you know if the device you're trying to use for a fact is one of the non-class compliant Djay controllers? Well, there's a very easy way to do this. So what you're going to need to do is go to the App Store, and you're going to want to download an app called MIDI Scope. Just search MIDI Scope, and it's this app right here. And now you're going to open this app. And now once you go into this app, you're going to want to take the controller that you're trying to use and then plug it into your iPad. So in this video, I am using the Newmark DJ To Go 2 Touch, which is my favorite controller, and there'll be a link down below if you guys want to grab this controller, and it's already mapped and it works perfectly with Djay Pro. So we're gonna take it and we're gonna plug it in. Now I am using an adapter that has these 3 ports. So one of them is the regular USB. So that's going to plug in to the controller. And the next port is going to be a charging port. Make sure, I say this in all my videos about controllers, make sure you have a way to charge the device while you're using these controllers, because if your iPad dies, then your set's over. So now we're going to plug this into the iPad. So the USB is going into here, and then it makes it into USB-C. And this one actually has an HDMI port, so you could do video mixing and you could have visuals on a TV or a projector. So when you guys are shopping for this, I would recommend getting the HDMI adapter too, because it's about the same price, and then now you can get into video mixing. So we're gonna plug the controller into the iPad. Make sure everything's plugged in good. And now if you're going to be looking for the controller. So we plugged it in, and now we see Djay To Go 2 Touch. So this is our controller here. We're going to click it and make sure it's selected. You see the check mark over there. And now we're going to go to Scope. So it's like looking at the MIDI device under a microscope. That's what this app is trying to do. So we go over here to Scope. I already did this, so let's redo it. So you're going to go over here to Scope, and then when you move one of the buttons, connect. See how when I move the buttons, you get all of this. It looks like the screen from the Matrix, all of these values and what they do. It says effects, stuff like that. So if you're getting these numbers and these readouts from the device that you are using, then the device that you are using is a supportive MIDI controller and can be used with Djay Pro. So if you have a controller that is that you plug into here that's not working in Djay Pro and you use this app and it comes up, then there's something else wrong, because this controller can be used with Djay Pro. So all you have to do is download the app MIDI Scope and plug your controller in, press the scope, and then just make sure that you're getting these values. So now you know that your controller is acceptable to Djay Pro or it is not. It's a binary answer. It either you could use it with Djay Pro or you can't. So this puts the end of the guessing and the wondering why, because you plugged it in, nothing happened, and this device does not work with Djay Pro. So now also in the app itself, if we go over here and then we go to MIDI devices, where was I? You go to MIDI devices, you have an option to rescan for MIDI devices. So sometimes when you plug it in, it might have missed it or it might have not picked it up when it scanned it. So you could rescan it. It usually doesn't do anything, but it's always worth it to try. Another thing to keep in mind is over here where it says Bluetooth MIDI devices. So when I first tried to use the DDJ 200, I went to the DJ store and I wanted to use it as a demo. So I open up the controller and then I try to connect it with the Bluetooth to my iPad, and I go to the regular iPad settings. I went over here to the settings and I went to Bluetooth and I'm like, I don't see the controller, this doesn't work, I'm on Bluetooth and I can't see it. So the person working there didn't know, he thought the same thing as me. So I went home and I didn't buy the controller, but then later on I realized that to connect Bluetooth controllers, not speakers, but controllers to your device, you have to do it through the Djay Pro menu, and you go over here to Bluetooth MIDI devices, and your Bluetooth MIDI device will be there. So I know the new Hercules controller that's really popular, the Mix, is a new Bluetooth DJ controller. So if you get that controller, keep in mind that you're going to have to go to this menu to plug in and be able to connect it to Bluetooth. And now once you're connected, you guys have full access to map anything in the controller. So if it's an old controller, a lot of the old controllers didn't have the filters and they didn't have a lot of stuff that modern DJs use now. So just pick a button, like a knob, turn it, click it, target, and then choose if you want it to be deck 1, deck 2, if you want it to be part of the mixer, and you guys can map any controller, map it to the way that you're going to want it to be mapped. Sorry about that. There is a really large turtle in my backyard. I live in South Florida, and there was a turtle walking by. I was trying to finish the video, but I wanted to show my wife. So any controller that you have, whether it's a really old one, you can map it to be just like the new controllers, or if you want a new controller to be mapped on one of your favorite old controllers, then you could do that too. So you always have options if you want to DJ with Djay Pro. So if you like learning about Djay Pro and learning about DJing on the iPad, subscribe to my channel and give this video a like. Thank you.